Welcome to the debate. You know, when you build a house in a hurricane zone, you don't start with like avant-garde architecture. You pour a thick, boring, standard concrete slab.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because when the storm hits, that rigid foundation is exactly what keeps the structure standing. And that's exactly how I look at Patrick Hughes' 2026 sci-fi action film, War Machine, and the whole fierce discussion over its newly announced sequel, War Machines.
Well, see, the problem is if that slab is poured with cheap, crumbling cement, it really doesn't matter how predictable it is. The first strong wind tears the whole house down.
Okay, but
And honestly, leaning entirely on, genre cliches and flawed world-building mechanics, that makes the foundation way too weak to support a sprawling cinematic universe.
I completely disagree with that. Grounding the narrative in familiar, the highly realistic military tropes is actually the perfect anchor for this high-concept sci-fi.
You think so?
I do. It organically demands a broader sequel. Just look at the structure. Hughes contains the entire first half of the film within RASP, the Ranger Assessment and Selection Program.
Right, the basic training sequence.
But it isn't just basic training. It's an incredibly grueling, totally isolating survival test. Staff Sergeant 81 is pushed to his absolute human limits before the alien even shows up.
Sure, but we've seen the traumatized lone wolf soldier like 1,000 times before. It's a textbook cliche.
By utilizing that exact trope, though, the film strips away futuristic tech and forces us to experience the alien through a lens of human vulnerability. When that impenetrable, magnetic field disrupting machine finally shatters his reality, the impact is visceral.
It's visceral the first time, sure, but the film relies so heavily on those predictable formulas.
I wouldn't call them formulas.
The lone survivor of a previous attack, the squad of recruits who don't get along, the sudden catastrophic event, it makes the storyline feel uninspired. We're talking about textbook escalation that crosses directly into lazy screenwriting.
Wait, but those tropes aren't a crutch. They are a necessary contrast. Think of John McTiernan's Predator.
Oh, Predator. Okay.
Yeah. That film also started with standard, muscle-bound military cliches. Establishing a rigid, familiar baseline is exactly what makes the jarring introduction of an alien entity actually work.
Hold on. Predator established internal rules that actually made sense for its creature. In War Machine, the structural choices actively damage the credibility of the sci-fi universe.
How so? The final reveal that tens of thousands of these machines have crash-landed globally is genuinely terrifying.
It's terrifying until you remember how 81 defeats the first one. We are talking about an autonomous interstellar machine capable of surviving an atmospheric crash and, transmitting deep space signals.
Right.
Yet it is ultimately defeated by a guy pouring gravel into a ventilation shaft at a construction site. How does an advanced alien civilization overlook a design flaw that simple?
Well,
if a handful of rocks makes it overheat and explode, how did it survive the thermal friction of entering Earth's atmosphere? It makes the threat feel contrived rather than genuinely terrifying.
I will admit, on the surface, defeating a hyper-advanced alien machine with gravel sounds completely absurd. But let's look at the actual physics here and the logic of asymmetric warfare.
Physics?
Yes, all high-tech armor has a weak point, which is heat dissipation. Even hyper-advanced technology is bound by the laws of thermodynamics. High-performance engines require thermal venting.
So the absolute pinnacle of interstellar engineering is bested by a pile of rocks?
He didn't just throw rocks at it. 81 weaponized the machine's own engineering against it. Atmospheric entry relies on distributed heat shielding. An exhaust vent is a concentrated mechanical necessity.
I still think it's a stretch.
Luring the machine to that construction site to choke its thermal exhaust isn't lazy writing. It's a brilliant display of tactical ingenuity overcoming brute force. And that directly sets up the sequel.
By having him repeat the trick?
No, 81 is the one who discovers this critical weakness, which perfectly justifies his promotion by Sergeant Major Sheridan to lead the global counter-assault in War Machines.
But you can't build an expanding cinematic universe on a one-trick gimmick.
Scaling this conflict up to tens of thousands of machines will require far more sophisticated world building than just repeating the same environmental trick.
I don't think they will just repeat it.
If the sequel is just 81 and his team running around finding construction sites to dump gravel into vents, the franchise is going to collapse under its own absurdity. The next chapter has to evolve beyond those familiar cliches to survive.
Well, I still maintain that the foundational action tropes successfully launch what promises to be a massive sci-fi epic. The concrete slab is poured, and I think it holds firm.
We definitely agree the throwback action is incredibly fun to watch. I just think a massive cinematic skyscraper needs a tighter blueprint than what we've seen so far.
Fair enough. The strongest structures are built to weather the fiercest storms, but the true test of this franchise